Ex nihilo is a theological term meaning out of nothing. And it's referring to the story of creation in the book of Genesis and the writings of the prophet Moses.
Really, what I wanted to ask you first is, when did you first start writing?
Well, I first started writing creatively probably my freshman year at college, and it was hip-hop. I wrote rap, not poetry. But then my junior year, someone invited me to this open mic where people were doing spoken word and what I do now, performance poetry. And I saw it, and I was like, dang, what is that? And it reminded me of hip-hop. It had an urban, hip-hop influence, but it was a lot freer, less structured. Hip-hop, it's like verse, chorus, chorus. You got the beat, so you got to stick to the beat, whereas spoken word, it was like you could slow down, you could go faster, you could do a lot more with it. So I was drawn to the art form and just started, after I saw that at an open mic, I just said, well, I want to try that. So
awesome. So, I believe that's a calling. When did you first feel that calling on your life for creative arts?
Yeah, it was interesting because, like I said, when I started, it wasn't something I saw as a calling or a ministry. It was something I did as a hobby on the side. And so I was in college, and on the weekend, I just hit up some open mic at some coffee shop or something. But when I would perform, people would come up to me afterwards, and the things they would say is what helped me realize, like, hey, maybe this is a lot more powerful than I thought. This isn't just me writing poems for fun, but, like, this is impacting people on a spiritual level. And so it was more just being affirmed by people who saw me do my thing that made me realize, this is stronger of a tool than I ever would have imagined.
And what it's trying to explain is the idea that God didn't use any material substance when he was making the cosmos. It's not like he took dirt and water and mixed them together into a ball to form the earth, but he made it out of nothing.
So a lot of your work is very personal and passionate. Do you write mostly, different events that you've walked through, or does God give you different poems, or is it just from experiences in your own life?
Yeah, inspiration comes from absolutely anywhere. I've written a poem about a bottle of shampoo. I've written a poem about a tattoo on a girl's foot. I've written a poem about a T-shirt a guy was wearing. You just never know. I feel like most people have interesting thoughts. There's things all the time that we see, that we hear, that make us go, huh? But a lot of times people, they have that thought and then they just dismiss it and continue with their day. I believe being creative, really all it is slowing down. When you have an interesting thought, develop it. Well, why did that thing make me laugh? Why did that make me curious? Why, and just developing that a little. So, yeah, I don't really get inspired by big, huge, amazing events more than small, little, everyday things. And God gives me poems out of nowhere, So it's pretty fun, yeah.
Awesome. So would you say you go through different seasons where you write more and write less? Is there certain seasons where you just feel like you got an open heaven and God just speaks to you?
Yeah, definitely. It's up and down. It's frustrating because I want to always be writing a lot, but I don't. A lot of times different things can trigger it. When I read a lot, I write more just because I'm filling my mind with ingredients, basically. And so if I'm reading a book that's really challenging, a lot of times creativity will come out of the thoughts that are rolling around in my head. Also, when I'm going through something difficult, that's probably the easiest time. I was actually just talking to a friend about this. It's really sad, but it's easier to write lament. When things are going awful, when things are bad, a lot of times we express ourselves through music and poetry and art. But I've really been trying to discipline myself to, hey, when everything's going good, to write authentically about joy without it sounding cheesy, And so, but yeah, I definitely write more when things are hard, and I write more when I'm reading. So
awesome. And who would you say are your influences? Who influenced you the most in your writings? And
I would say, I didn't grow up, reading or liking poetry. Like I said, I got into it in college when I saw other people doing that thing. So it wasn't any, famous poets that influenced me as much as it was just people like me, laymen, everyday people, watching them be so honest, in a room full of strangers, bearing their soul. That was inspiring to me. It made me feel connected. So I really just get inspired by kind of that subculture of open mic and spoken word, just people being real. Like, that inspires me to be real. And it's that fear that we don't want to be honest about what we're going through because we think that people are going to react a certain way, and I'm constantly being surprised. You know, I talk about the things that I think are most shameful, and people are like, bro, I thought I was the only one. Thank you for saying that. And we go through things and we think we're alone in them. We feel alone because our best friends and our family don't seem to understand us. But if you have the courage to stand up in a room full of strangers, all of a sudden, this thing that you thought no one understood, half the people in the room are like, me too.
Yeah.
You know, I actually been there. And so that's what I love about it.
That's awesome. One last thing, man. To all those aspiring artists out there that feel the call that you're walking in, what would be your words of encouragement to them?
Man, that's I got a lot of different things, you know, at different seasons. I guess for me, one of the things I had to get over is be comfortable with writing, or not just writing, but whatever your art is, producing less than excellent. And what I mean by that is not that you shouldn't strive for excellence, but for me, I know a lot of times, like, I wouldn't write a poem unless I thought it was amazing. Yeah. And that was just so arrogant of me to think, like, everything that I put down on paper was going to be brilliant, right? No, I had to get comfortable, like, completing a thought. Even if the poem, I never shared it, it's, you know what, I have a document like 80 pages long, single spaced, and 60 of those pages are trash, you know? And like 20 of them maybe is good stuff, right? But if there's going to be such a small fraction of your work that is actually excellent, but the more you produce, you discipline yourself to, you know, to create, then if 8 out of every 10 poems are bad and you write 10 poems, then you have 2 good ones. But if you write 100 poems, then you have 20 good ones, you know? And so I really just kind of got over myself and said, you know what, it's worth just finishing thoughts. And, instead of putting pressure on yourself to never do anything I don't think you should put out subpar work, but sometimes creating and writing and going through that process will help your work be better in the end, you know?
Yeah.
But then I was reading the story and I realized something. The text says, and God said, let there be light. And God said, and God said, and God said, and God spoke until the whole of the universe was. And so I realized it wasn't out of nothing. It was something. He used his words, and that's something significant, especially to a person who pays attention to words. And I thought, man, what did those words sound like? They must have been the most beautiful, the most poetic words ever spoken. Imagine nothing. Not darkness, since darkness is something. Imagine no darkness. Nothing. No thing to look at. No eyes to look with. Even without eyes, there was nothing to miss. Emptiness. Wait. No space to be empty. Imagine no emptiness. Imagine no imagination. Now, imagine creation.
Can I get one more question? You know, maybe do you have like a first poem or the first time you put something on writing and you knew that's your gift. That's what you're here to do. Maybe like a pastor's first sermon.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I grew up listening to hip hop, you know, and I grew up loving it, but never thought that I would do it. So for me, I would always memorize other people's lyrics.
Yeah.
And when I first started, to be honest, I was not good. And I didn't keep doing it because I thought it was good. I kept doing it because I loved it. And I guess that's another thing I would say to aspiring artists is like, be faithful to do what you love and do it to the glory of God, but like, don't make the aim to success or to have success in the sense of, if you're measuring your success as an artist by, you know, how many people acknowledge your writing, or if you ever get to start touring or doing shows, it's like so many of what are now considered the world's greatest poets and songwriters and so many things, like during their life, like no one cared about them. Yeah. They were starving artists their whole life, then they die and their stuff is considered brilliant, right? I'm not saying that will happen to you. What I'm saying is those people weren't concerned about making it. They created art, you know, out of their heart, and and it wasn't. I would say check your motivation.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's about just making money off of what you do, that's cool. But if that's why you're doing it, then that's stupid. You know, and you're not gonna. I mean, odds are you're not gonna make a ton of money off of it. But, anyways, I'm rambling. I could talk all day.
That's awesome. This is a real simple question. How do you accurately say your name, your last name? Because I've heard Bournes, and I've heard it all.
Oh, man, yeah, I get all Micah Bournes all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
Like, nobody says my first and last name right. Micah Bournes.
Micah Bournes.
Bournes. Yeah, the S is silent. So, Micah Bournes.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're here with Micah Bournes, and he's got a couple shows lined up this week, and we're excited to have him tonight here at Upper Room.
Cool.
So, man, I appreciate it, man.
Materialized speech rising from the lips of he who pre-exists. In the beginning, God created. With words. Imagine the language. Imagine the verbs. Imagine the adjectives employed to modify earth. Oh, that ears could have heard those majestic sentences. Listen as the infinite articulates the landscapes which leave us speechless. Speak, Lord, speak. Let there be light, life, earth, sea. Speak, Lord, speak.